Hello and welcome to this exploring session, and we have some biblical double billing going on today. We're going to do a couple of unattached little plays that of which we know reasonably little about in certain places and cases. We're doing the Newcastle play of Noah's Ark, or the Shipwright's Ancient Play, or Dirge, and we're also doing Abraham and Isaac, a play known either as the Northampton Abraham and Isaac and also as Dublin. The Dublin Abraham and Isaac because of where the manuscript lives. They are both, connected perhaps with various cycles that might exist somewhere, but they come to us as individual little playlets in different areas of damage, which I'll discuss in just a moment. Reading these plays today, reading Noah and later on God in the Abraham play is...
Hi, I'm Steve Longstaffe. I'm a scholar of early modern drama based in Lancaster in the UK.
And reading Noah's wife and Sara is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian.
And reading an angel so well he's doing it twice is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk, and in no way am I angelic.
And reading today Demon and Abraham is...
Aliki, Chapple. I'm an actor, translator, and occasionally theatre maker based in the north of England.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading God in the first play, and I'll also be reading Isaac in the second. And so we're going to start with Noah, the Newcastle play of Noah's Ark. Now, this play comes down to us, a copy made of a play. It was published in 1736, I have written down here, by a chap called Henry Bourne. It's a bit of a mess. It looks like prior to publishing it, he possibly maybe tried to tidy it up and make it modernize-y a bit, so the verse doesn't necessarily always make sense. Other people have attempted to reconstruct and repaginate and maybe add the additional odd word here or there to make it probably more like it was originally. We're not going to do that. We're going to read the text that comes down to us and marvel or be dismayed at its party quirks, because that's sort of where we start with. Newcastle did have an associated mystery cycle that we have records for. We know of its existence. There may have been as many as a dozen different guilds producing maybe as many as 20 plus plays, or maybe just a dozen, because there are a dozen of them. We don't really know. We have lots of various records, which at some point further down the line we might go into, but not today. We're just going to look at, as I say, this slightly flawed, damaged, adjusted, who knows, version of Noah's Ark. And as I say, we have these wonderful readers, but they're not up first. It's me, you poor, unfortunate people. So I will be essaying my God. Ere was this world that I have wrought, no marvel it is if I do show their folk in earth I made of naught. Now they fully my foe. Vengeance now will I do of them that have grieved me ill. Great floods shall over them go, and run over hoop and hill. All mankind dead shall be, with storms both stiff and steer, but all but Noah, my darling free, his children and their wives, evermore yet they trowed in me, save before I will their lives. Henceforth, my angel free, into earth look what thou would. Greet well Noah in this degree, sleeping thou shalt him find. Bid him go make a ship of stiff board and great, although he be not aright. Therefore bid him not let, he shall have wit at will, be that he come thereto. All things I him fulfill, pitch, tar, seam, and row. Bid him in any manner of thing, of ship when he shall walk, of all kind of beasts and fowl, the male and female with him he take. Bid him go, prithee, say so, in ship that they not die. Take with him hay, corn, and straw, for his fowl and his fee. Henceforth, my angel free, tell him this for certain, my blessing with thee be, while that thou come again.
Waken, Noah, to me take tent. Noah, bid, if thou hear this thing, ever whilst thou live, thou shalt repent.
What art thou, for heaven's king, that wakens Noah off his sleeping? Away I would thou went.
It is an angel to thee sent, Noah, to tell thee hard tiding. For every ilk a wight, for walks wild, and many foul in sins sere, and in felony foul filled. Therefore a ship thou dight to steer, a true timber highly railed, with 30 cubits in defence. Look that she draw when she is dressed, and in a side a door thou shear, with fensters fully fitly fest, and make chambers both more and less, for a flood that up shall burst. Such a flood in earth shall be, that every life hath life ward, beast and body with bone and blood. They shall be stormed through stress of storm, albeit thou Noah and thy brood, and their 3 wives in your hand. For you are full righteous and good. You shall be saved by sea and land. Into the ship, ere you enter out, you take with you both ox and cow, of ilk a thing that life has lent. The male and female you take with you. You fetch in fodder for your freight, and make good purveyance for you to prove that they perish not in your sight. Do, Noah, as I have bidden thee now.
Lord, be then in this stead that me and mine will save and shield. I am a man no worth at need, for I am 600 winters old. Unlusty I am to do such a deed, work looms for work to work and wheel. For I was never, since I was born, of kind of craft to burden a boat. I had neither riff nor ruff, spire, sprun, sprout, nor sprot. Christ be the shaper of this ship, for a ship need make I must. Every woe worth thou fouled sin, for all too dear thou must be bought. God for thanks he made mankind, or with his hands that he them wrought. Therefore, or ever you blind, you mend your wife and turn your thought, for of my work I will begin, so well were me were all forth brought.
And we're just going to pause there before the Aliki was all there ready to leap in, but we're almost effectively halfway through the play. It is not long, ladies and gentlemen. It is very, very short. Okay, how are we finding it so far? It's very different. It's kind of text to what this afternoon group is used to, actually, it has to be said. How are you feeling taking the years back in time?
I love neither.
Aliki first.
Sorry, I love neither riff nor rough, spire, sprun, sprout, no sprot. That made me happy.
Yes, I apologise. There's a typo there. It's spront, not sprout.
Spront.
Spront.
It's a comedy moment where he doesn't actually know the name of the tools.
Mm. It sort of reminded me of the Pinter play Trouble at Works.
Yeah, the plumbing one.
Sorry, Alan.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit I'm feeling back on familiar territory with the work we've been doing on various mystery cycles over God knows how many years. But I mean, there's some lovely bits of the word's gone. Of playing with sound effectively. You can see this as a open air performance piece, you know, and almost getting a chant with some of the rhymes and so on. Of, you know, it's almost, and join in the back, you lot.
Yes, Stephen. Any additional thoughts?
I was just confused by the mend your wife, because that's usually Noah, isn't it, who has to mend his wife?
Mm.
So I was confused by the reference, by Noah saying, "There, you mend your wife and turn your thought."
Yeah, maybe that should be Angel. That's just doing a final closing thought, actually.
I don't know, but it seems a little bit, that Noah speech, it doesn't have a single sort of line through it. It seems a little bit garbled to me.
Yeah. Well, I think we can take it as read that the text is indeed a bit garbled. So there's interesting evidence there. I like that. Helen.
Yes, I mean, I was knocked somewhat sideways by God saying, "Now are they fully my foe." This seemed a little, harsh. But then I'm more used to the Christian God, who Christ I see does get a mention, which is, I suppose, fairly typical of the Old Testament as portrayed in these plays.
It's really interesting, actually, the number of plays we've done where God just really is a total git. I mean, they don't seem to even hide the Old Testament God at all. He's out for genocide. He's absolutely out for genocide. Having decided that mankind is now the enemy.
I mean, that's what it says.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. It gets worse. You want something psychologically traumatizing? The genocide's nothing. You wait till we get to the next play. Sorry, Stephen.
It was just a flippant point about the Old Testament being Terminator 1 and the New Testament being Terminator 2. It's kind of God flips into the kind of nice guy.
He does say, "I'll be back." So,
The other thing that I was reminded of, and it's frivolous, but you don't seem to mind frivolity today. It was a Big Bang Theory. Sheldon's mother, very Christian mother, when challenged by her son, what did the lions on the ark feed on? She looked him straight in the face and said, the bodies of drowned sinners.
Well, the God here does actually go into the logistics. I quite like the logistical side. I don't know if that's in the Bible. Take with him hay, corn, and straw. I wouldn't be surprised if it is, but it's just nice. Remember to feed the animals. Once you got them on board.
I mean, the interesting thing about the biblical narrative is that it isn't two of every kind.
No.
There are varying numbers for varying species.
Mm. Huh. Yeah. There's quite a lot of detail and differing lists about what you should bring on and what you shouldn't. He's very specific. God as accountant. Any additional thoughts before we go into the second half of the narrative? No, I see silence and terror in the eyes of the people. Okay, so now Noah's presumably popped off to do some woodworking skills, and we are left with the entrance of a demon.
Put off, Harrow, and well away that ever I uprose this day. So may I smile and say, I went there has been none alive, man, beast, child, nor wife, but my servants were they. All this I have heard say, a ship that made should be, for to save without nay Noah and his Mimi. Yet trow I shall be there too. I make a vow, if they be never so slee, to taint them yet, I trow. And Noah's wife will I wind, gare her believe in me. In faith, she is my friend. She is both want and slee. Rest well, my own dear day.
Welcome, Fuster. What's thy name? Tight thou tell me?
To tell my name I were for loath. I come to warn thee of thy scathe, tell thee secretly, and thou do after thy husband read, thou and thy children will all be dead, and that right hastily.
Go, devil, how say for shame?
Yes, hold thee still, dame, and I shall tell how. I swear thee by my crooked snout, all that thy husband goes about is little for thy profit. Yet shall I tell thee how. Thou shalt weet all his will. Do as I shall bid thee now. Thou shalt weet every deal. Have here a drink full good that is made of a mightful main. But he that hath drunken a drink of this, no longer shall he learn. Believe, my own dear dame, I may no longer bide. To ship, when thou shalt fare, I shall be by thy side.
This labour is full great for like an old man as me. Lo, fast I sweat, it trickles out of my knee. Now home will I wend, my weary bones for to rest. For such good as God hath sent, there I get of the best. Rest well, day. What cheer with thee?
Welcome, Noah, as might I thee. Welcome to thine own wains. Sit down beside me, thou hast full weary banes. Have eaten, Noah, as I might thee, and soon a drink I shall give thee, such drink as thou never none afore.
What the devil? What drink is it? By my father's soul, I've near lost my wit.
Noah, but you tell me whereabout you wends. I give God a vow, we two shall ne'er be friends.
Oh yes, dame, could thou lane, I would tell thee my wit. How God of heaven an angel sent, and bade me make a ship. This world he will fordo, with storms both stiff and steer fell. All but thee and me are children and wives.
Who devil made thee a right? God give him evil to fare. Of hand to have such sleight, to make ship less or more perfect. Men should have heard wide where when you began to smite.
Yes, dame, it is God's will. Let be so thou not say. Go make an end, I will, and come again full throng.
By my faith, I know rake, whether thou be friend or foe. The devil of hell thee speed to ship when thou shalt go.
God send me help in high, to clink you nail too. God send me help in high, your hand to hold again, that all may well be done, my strokes be not in vain.
God hath thee helps hither send, thereof be thou right bold. Thy strokes shall fair be kenned, that thou my wife hast cowled.
Now is this ship well made, within and without, thinks me. Now home then will I wend to fetch you my money. Have good day, both old and young. My blessing with you be.
All that is gathered in this stead that will not believe in me, I pray to Dolphin, prince of dead, scald you all in his lead, that never a one of you thrive, nor thee.
Yes, I like that sort of closing audience participation. It's like you and you over there. Definitely going to pick on you. You weren't paying attention earlier. You do get the impression that there's sort of either gaps or interpolated action that's going on here, especially with the angel turning up and there. I do like Noah's wife just going, God, you become a shipwright. I mean, I asked you to put a shelf up a few years ago, and has that happened? No, but no. So God, now you're building an ark.
She's got a point.
Yeah. Everyone's got. Nobody will believe you're building an ark. Is that what you've been doing in the shed? For God's sake.
I mean, Mrs. Noah is the origin of an enormous number of female characters, very often played by men.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the Les Dawson ladies over the fence bit, can't you?
Yes, and I mean, the pantomime dame is there somewhere. I mean, not necessarily this particular Uxor, but other Uxors.
are available.
Yes, we have at least
sorry,
another. We have at least another 4. Yes. Yeah, and what is it in the drink? You know, it's strong stuff, isn't it?
I always thought the drunkenness of Noah came after the flood. I don't know why. Was it before?
I thought it was after as well, but I'm also thinking it's a brilliant opportunity for just a comic bit, you know?
Yeah.
Really drunk Noah. And maybe that just becomes associated in people's mind. Noah, drunk.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, he's been off working. He comes, you know, he's presumably thirsty. You know, he's sweating out of his ear. I think is that mine.
His eye.
Oh, his eye.
Yeah, the sweat runs into his eyes.
Ah, right.
I mean, he's built an entire boat, right, to carry all of those animals and his entire extended family by himself in his shed in the course of the play. So
and nobody's noticed.
Previous experience.
Well, I think it's quite different to. I mean, we haven't done all of the Noah plays from the other cycles that survive yet, but the ones that we've done have focused very much on Noah and his family and his sons and his sons' wives. And then there's an interaction with Noah's wife. I don't know about demons in other ones as well, whether this demon is so explicitly cast. So we have sort of other people and gossips and, you know, her friends who, you know, she doesn't want to take to leave behind, and questions there.
Well, demons aren't a thing in the Old Testament at all, right?
Well, they're more tricksy. They're not necessarily demons in the same way. They might be, you know, alternate servants.
Dupes, comforters.
Right, of course.
So, yeah, it feels very Précy-ish. You know, it's not hanging around. It doesn't have a huge cast of characters, which is lovely for a Noah play. We've got so many Noah plays where, you know, suddenly you've got wives and children and things, and you're just going, God, you need a cast of thousands.
Well, I remember when we did an audio Noah, we ended up with one person playing all 3 sons and one lady playing all 3 wives.
Yes,
which got quite confusing.
Well, we were just doing a brief textual assessment. It was thankfully not a full production. That would have not worked.
But I always have difficulty thinking of Noah in verse without going back to the Stan Holloway, 3 of the Marriott Edgar monologues, 3 Acres a Foot, the Old Ark.
Yeah,
What amazed me was he went back for his money.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I've not seen that before. I mean, he's taken a lot of things on the Ark, but it never occurred to me he'd take his money.
Well, this is Newcastle.
I have no idea how these were actually performed, okay? But it did occur to me, I wondered whether that's an opportunity to throw something out into the crowd. Not money, presumably.
Chocolate money. Or the early modern equivalent.
Whatever the early, I don't know, candied, confits, cakes. Because there's something about him being very deliberate about that, and then it following so close the end of the play. Home will I went, have a good day, my blessings. You can sort of see him casting out nuts or whatever.
You're all going to die.
But I think there should be a successor play to this. The shipwrights do this, and then the mariners would do a flood play.
Oh, I see.
Well, I say the thing is, for every location where a play occurs, they might have a completely different staging policy and ways working, and where they're performing it and who they're performing it for. So it's one of those problems that, you know, when you say you don't know how they were staging it, in a sense, it's however they decided to stage it. There's no set principle. You know, some places did pageant wagons that went through the town, and some people didn't, and because, you know, it was too much like hard work.
I suppose I'm thinking of the context in which folk plays are still performed, which is usually big public festivals. Yeah.
Well, there's no guarantee that this text is directly related to whatever was performed as part of their cycle. So it could be a more small scale thing.
Well, Hull, which is very similar to Newcastle in structure and population, had a Noah play or a flood play or both. And I think it was a Corpus Christi play, which is not the best weather. It may even have been inside the church.
Mm.
Well, that's the thing, is that also, the things weren't universal. Even if it was, sometimes known as a Corpus Christi play, it might still have been performed at Whitsun or some other festival. It's always this movable feast. It also depends on what period, because hundreds of years pass with these plays as well. It's an ever-moving target that you can't necessarily nail down. Couple of questions I just want to throw to the room. I particularly love want, which is wise. She's both want and slee. I love want. Great word. Dolphin. I pray to Dolphin, Prince of Dead. Does anyone have anything on that? Because I have nothing.
Dauphin.
Yeah, that was the only similar word I could think of.
Well, they often write that dolphin in early modern plays, don't they?
Yeah, but I'm not sure why they'd be attacking the French.
Because
I have
who else do you attack?
I have a feeling, but it's a very vague one, that there is some kind of sea monster dolphin thing. Dolphin is an alternate name for the Kraken or whatever.
Yeah. And there was also the thus there, or whatever that word that Uxor says, which I assume in, stranger or something like that. But I genuinely can't find anything on that.
Where are you with that?
It's just after the demons entered. First line.
The wife's first speech.
Yeah. Genuinely don't have an answer on what the hell that's supposed to be. It's very, very odd.
Fuster.
I say it generally means stranger.
Yes, tight. I don't know either.
Well,
tight
how
that thou tell me.
I should be able to say that off the top of my head, but I can't remember. So I'm looking it up to make myself look more intelligent.
So the demon's got a mask on, I guess. The demon's got a crooked snout.
So tight is quickly.
Yeah.
Quickly that they'll tell me. I should have known that.
The fuster is certainly an unusual one. And I wonder whether there's elements there, which is whether there's any elements of Newcastle dialect.
I was wondering that too.
I mean, it could just also be transcription error.
Should we have all been doing it in a Geordie accent?
Why, aye, man?
I suspect that would have led to terrible consequences further down the line.
I really don't want to hear any of my British regional accents.
Yeah.
Okay, any final thoughts then on the Newcastle play, the survival thereof?
I have one thought about the money, which is he could go and try and get money off the audience.
The
collecting box.
The collect, yeah.
Yes, because that is an important function of a lot of drama is explicitly to raise cash.
Yes, and what he says, to fetch in my money, then he says, have good day, both old and young, my blessing with you be. This is thanks for the money they've given.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so
dispensing money, collecting it.
Yeah, so you could actually see it almost as a precursor of the way a Morris team would operate, with the fool going around at the end with the hat.
Yeah.
So it's a collection point.
I think that's bang on. I think that must be right.
I like that. I have made a note. Any other thoughts?
What is Skaith?
Skaith, where does it live?
Isn't it?
Yes.
The demon to Noah's wife the first time. Right under Fusther or Fustier. To tell my name, I were full loath, I come to warn thee of thy scathe.
Harm.
Yeah, I think
Danger.
harm. I can have a quick look on that.
Oh, as in
SCATHE.
unscathed.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right, got it.
Cool. Okay, are we content to move on to Abraham and Isaac?
Yep.
Northampton play. I say it's sometimes known as Dublin play because that's where the manuscript survives, though the manuscript does mention various elements of... I think it's got various random references to things in Northampton, which are give the impression that's where the play is supposed to come from. It survives in manuscript form. I think it still survives to today, so at least we have a better idea of how this text functions. Manuscript dating from around 1461, I've got, so sometime before then. I think it's important for the listeners at home, we should mention a trigger warning here. This contains scenes of obeying the voices in your head. This is quite harrowing at times. Abraham and Isaac is not a cheerful story, and it's you do get the impression that Christians through the ages have struggled to connect some of the Old Testament material. And this is a very popular play. We've got so many versions of this survive in slight variations. This will be at least our third, maybe fourth reading of a Abraham and Isaac play. We've got, I think, another 3 to do. They all do different variations on a theme. And they say they are genuinely harrowing. And there is this question that plays keep bringing up is, just explaining to the audience why this is a good thing that this happened. And it does feel sometimes like you're trying a bit too hard. I don't know if that's just my modern viewing of it.
Isn't it something to do with it being a type for Christ? So the Father sacrificing the Son, maybe that's why it's such an important thing.
Oh yeah, I think it is. Just the reality of it still is tricky, I think, with audiences. So we have all got parts. I'm Isaac, aren't I? Oh God. Be cheerful. Okay, we've got a different God in place. That's lovely. Let's see how this goes.
Of all things that ever was, I am the beginner, both heavenly and earthly, and of them that been in hell. At my bidding was wrought both good man and sinner, all in joy to have dwelled till Adam to sin fell. His unkindness hath displeased me, truth for to tell, for many a thing made I for his joy and dalliance. Why should he displease me that I loved so well? And commanded him but one thing, and yet he forfeited my pleasance. But yet, sith he hath displeased me, I have made proviance that another of his kind shall please me again. He which hath ever been my servant in all manner observance. Abraham is his name, my man that cannot feign, but ever hath be true. Herebefore he required me high to have a child of his body, and I granted him, and he hath on readily, Isaac, full fair of view. Of all thing earthly I wot well, he loveth him best. Now he should love me most, as reason would and skill, and so I wot well he doth. I did it never mistrust. But yet, for to prove him, the truth will I fell. Mine angel, go to Abraham that I love right well, and say that I commanded and charged him above all things, the first deed that he doth, or meet other mel, to make sacrifice unto me of Isaac his son Ying.
Blessed Lord, I am ready at thy bidding, to do that shall please thee in heaven, earth, and hell. For all is own to thee obedience above all thing. This message unto Abraham, thy servant, I will go tell.
And I thee that thou were on ground. I do not but to assay him, and if he do it, I will not dismay him. Of his sorrow I shall delay him, and for one child increase him 1,000.
And broadly speaking, the angel is going to descend down to earth, and Abraham enters.
O great God on high, that all the world madest, and lendest us our living here to do thy pleasance, with sweet comfort of the earth all our hearts gladdest, to be honour, to be joy, and all due obeisance. And highly, Lord, I thank thee that so makest my purveyance to provide, ere I die, child of my own body, to rejoice that thou gave me in earth to my dalliance. And please thee, sovereign Lord, I shall charge him perfectly. Isaac, my son, so dear, I have been out all day. Now shall I go home, and to my wife I say, there shall I find both tway, Sara and Isaac in fair.
And the angel appears unto him.
Abraham! Abraham!
Already? Who calleth? Lo, here I am. Who is there in the high Lord's name, of all things shape of naught?
I am here, a messenger of that sovereign Lord entire. Therefore hearken now and hear what message I have brought. The good Lord of all heavens high commanded thee to take and sacrifice Isaac thy son, that thou lovest so heartily, to his sovereignty and pleasance blithe. Farewell, for my message I have thee said.
Angel, as God's will, I am right well paid, for of me his will shall never be withnaid while I am on live. And hardly, angel, trust thereto, for doubtless it shall be due.
Farewell then, for I will go to bring our Lord relation.
Now, good Lord, grant me heart theretil, that I may do this as thy will. And be my truth, I shall it fulfill without fraud of their cavillation.
And by this point, the angel has exited, and Abraham is alone.
Good Lord, what is now best to do? Home to my wife I must needs go, for there is Isaac. I trow she will be full woe, if she knew the case. She hath him and no more, and if I tell her that it is so, that God will have him to death ado, she faileth not of sorrow's trace. No force I have liever that she displeased be, than that God be wroth with me. Now doubtless I shall go and see how privily that it can it do. Undo these gates! Who's there?
None but I and my son dear. Welcome, my lord, welcome my fear, welcome my comfort also. Ah, ye have walked far about. How have ye fare while ye have be out? Without fail I have had great doubt, lest anything did you grievance.
Nay, I thank the good Lord, all thing and I done well accord. Saving this, my good Lord hath sent me word that I must needs go do his pleasance. I must do sacrifice upon that hill on high. And therefore, sirs, maketh mine ass ready, and Isaac, son, thou never yet me see do no such observance. Therefore array thee, and go with me, and learn how God should pleased be. For son, and ever thou think to thee, put ever God to honourance.
So shall I, father, and ever have do, as ye have taught me and my mother also. Look, whenever that ye will go, I shall not be behind.
Yea, but I pray you, gentle Frere, as ever ye have loved me dear, let Isaac abide at home here, for I kept not he went in the wind.
Peace, dame, let be. Do way. Thou wast well, I wax right grey, and this child never yet say how God should be pleased. And therefore, now he shall go with me, and therefore he shall hope, know, and see how that God shall pleased be, and mine heart I eased.
Then sith he will have forth my child, good, look that his horse be not so wild, and sirs, wait on him, that he be not defiled with neither clay nor fen. And look well that his horse go round, and that he stumble not for no pound. Now, good heart God, send thee home sound, thy father and all his men.
Get hither all horses, and let us go hen, both I and Isaac and these two men. And look, we have fire and sticks to bring. Leapeth up, have ado anon.
All thing is ready, I you say, but gentle heart, I you pray, tarry a little while out as ye may, because of Isaac, my son.
And off they go riding on their horses. And yes, it's another play with horses. Always nice to have the equine contingent in any text. Plus 2 silent men who just stand there helping and riding along with them as well. It's going to keep ramping up all the little details to make Abraham and the audience feel more and more uncomfortable. So the more Sara fusses about, have you got a scarf on? Have you got any handkerchiefs? Don't want him getting mud on his trousers.
And he wants a nice quiet horse.
Yeah, nice horse. He is their only child, which is something they keep referring to. And one thanks to God. So yeah, it's going to keep playing that game.
He's very young in this play, isn't he?
I don't know. There's a sort of Dad's Army quality to him. I'm feeling here. Pike.
Played him that way.
Pike and his mother, and just mother.
He's got croup. But I mean, Isaac's saying, Abraham's saying, I'm very old. I've got to take Isaac because he's got to see how God needs to be served.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't seen these rites and rituals, what we do.
Yeah.
God, as ever, opening the play as victim here. God's victim narrative is strong as ever. People are all against me, and Abraham, who just loves his son more than me. That's not on.
I wouldn't have that kid if it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Yes, because he is the child of a miracle, isn't he? Because Sara was very old when she had him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's always described as the son of their old age, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, in ancient days, that was probably in your in your 30s.
Well, no, it's 600. How old's Abraham?
Exactly. Yeah, so in the sense that the God angel dynamic is very similar to what we had in Noah as well. It's basically a go forth messenger and do that. I'm not telling him. I'm not telling Abe. It'll be bad. I feel awkward.
What else are angels for but to do the dirty work?
Anyone disagree with my rough outlining of the Latin stage directions? By the way, I was mostly inferring them from what's going on around them. If there was a detail or nugget, anyone whose Latin's better than mine, like existing, any additional things there?
Seemed reasonable to me. We've got a nice example of is it a gerund or a gerundive coming up? I think it's a gerund. Yeah, equitando.
Which is riders, isn't it?
Yeah. All Abraham, Isaac, and the 2 random men that they have. They've got servants of Abraham and Sarah.
Well, before electricity, if you maintained a household, you had to have servants.
Any additional thoughts about the play so far? About a third of the way? Nope.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So Abraham and Isaac, they've gone off for a pleasant ride in the woods on the hills, and the hill, yeah. I'm sure this is all going to go lovely. Let's see how this goes.
Now, sirs, abide here, ye two. Taketh here my horse, and Isaac also, for he and I must a little farther go to do this sacrifice. And I charge you that ye abide here indeed, and that ye remove not from this steed, while Isaac and I go do this deed to God in our best wise. Come hither, Isaac, my good son. Take up this fire and this wood. Spare not thy clothes. Give me thy hood. I shall not cumber thee sore.
Now go, father, that this deed were hide, for this wood on my back is well tied. But where is that quick beast that shall be sacrificed? Behind us or afore?
Son, care not therefore on never aside, but let God alone therewith this tide, and for our way he shall provide, and defend us from fear. Ah, son, I have espied the place that God hath provided us of his grace. Come, son, a right good pace, and hie us that we were there. Now, Isaac, son, I may no longer refrain, but I must tell the truth certain, and therefore look thou be not there again, but do it with all thy will. High God that all hath wrought commanded me that hither thou shouldst be brought, and here thy body shall be brought to naught, but to sacrifice on this hill. Lay down that wood, that altar there, and fast deliver thee, and do of thy gear.
Alas, gentle father, why put ye me in this fear? Have I displeased you in anything? If I have trespassed, I cry you mercy. Gentle father, let me not die. Alas, is there none other beast but I that may please that high king?
Nay, son, to me thou hast do no trespass. Thou hast my blessing in every place. But I may not forfeit that Lord's grace that all things hath me sent for, and it should be after me. I have liever have slain all my beasts than thee. But his will, needs fulfilled, must be, and truly so is my intent.
Alas, what have I displeased this Lord of bliss, that I shall be martyred in this miss? But, gentle father, what my mother of this, that I shall be dead?
She, marry, son, Christ forbid. Nay, to tell her it is no need, for when that ever she knoweth this deed, she will eat after but little bread.
In faith, for my mother I dare well say, and she had wist of this away, I had not ridden out from her this day, but she had ridden also.
Ye, son, God must be served aye. Thy mother may not have her will alway. I love thee as well as she doth in fay, and yet this deed must be do.
Hey, father, then do off my gown, ungird me, and take them with you to town, for I may not. I fall in swoon. Death hath embraced mine heart. But one thing, father, I pray you thus, let never my mother see my clothes, for an she do without an oaths, it will grieve her to smart.
Oh, dear heart, what shall I do by thee? Woe is me that I shall slay thee. With all my goods I would buy thee, and then God would ascend thereto.
Hey, father, do now whatever ye list, for of my mother I wot well I shall be missed. Many a time hath she me clipped and kissed, but farewell now, for that is due. She was wont to call me her treasure and her store, but farewell now, she shall no more. Here shall I be dead, and wote never therefore, save that God must have his will. Father, shall my head off also?
Yea, forsooth, son, that must needs be do. Alas, good heart, that me is woe that ever I should thee thus spill.
Then, father, bind mine hands and my legs fast, and give me a great stroke that my pains were past, for last I shrink, I am right sore aghast, and then you will smite me in another place. Then is my pain so much the more. A soft gentle father, you bind me sore.
Oh, dear heart, woe is me, therefore. Mine is worse than ever it was.
Hey, father, lay me down soft and fair, and have ado now, and slay your heir. For I am hampered and in despair, and also at my life's end.
Ah, fair heart root, leave thy cry. Thy sore language goeth mine heart full nigh. There is no man, therefore, so woe as I, for here shall I slee my friend. The high Lord bade me do this deed, but my heart grudgeth. So God me speed. My blood abhorreth to see my son bleed, for all on blood it is. Alas, that my heart is wonder sore, for I am now right old and hoar, but God hath chosen thee for his own store in comfort of all my sins, and to be offered to him that is Lord on high. Therefore, my son, take it patiently. Peradventure in battle or other mischief thou mightst die, or else in another ungodly venience.
Now, father, and sigh it is so. With all my heart I assent thereto. Stretcheth out my neck, anon have do, and put me out of penance.
Now kiss me first, heart root. I'll lie down. Stretch out thy throat. This taketh me full nigh, God wot. Good Lord, to do thy pleasance.
And he lifts up the sword and he chops off his head, and it's all terrible and awful. No, it's all right. He's saved. But we'll just pause and go over that detail. And just go over that. First of all, they're riding off. They've gone as a posse, and the first thing Abraham does is says, "Right, you guys, just tie the horses here. We're just going to walk on. Don't follow us. Don't follow us." And it's this journeying. This whole play is all about journeying, and how that would be staged I find really interesting. All this distance that they're doing and moving from place to place. And we have this with all the Abraham plays, actually, to some degree. But this, where there are horses and there is a definite journey that's quite extensive, I'm finding really interesting. We have a horse journey in another biblical play, but I'll come to that later. Any thoughts about the cheerful action that we've had?
They really spin it out some.
And it would be performed slower than this as well. You would stretch out the agony of tying up hands and all that detail. And
it is very similar to crucifixion, isn't it?
Yeah, and very deliberately, but
yeah,
it's not very like a sacrifice, I have to say. Not anything that I've read of any animal sacrifice. They don't truss them up generally.
Well, it's interesting because he requests it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the same in other plays. I'm not sure it is, actually. It may be. I mean, he's constantly mentioning mother. In this play, the mother is in the play. Sometimes she's not. So it is this thing of, what would mother think? Well, I'm not going to tell her, is Abraham's response. It was an accident. It was nothing. He just fell off a cliff. I don't know what happened. He clearly has no intention of telling the wife.
Because I will never have peace again, right? I mean, she's going to poison his morning hot milk or whatever it is. I would.
Well, he also says she's going to stop eating.
Yeah.
She'll give up without her son. I mean, she's the Jewish mother. The mother of all Jewish mothers.
Yeah, she's...
I mean... I don't think we need to be that cultural about it. All parents love their children, right?
Yes.
Mostly.
Right, in an ideal world, but... I mean, okay, I know I keep being ancient Greek, but I keep thinking about Clytemnestra and Iphigenia here. There's something about those lines. I love you as much as your mother does. It's just that I have to kill you now. Sorry. It reminds me of modern warfare too, you know.
Well,
Anyway.
I always think of this as a sort of one of those, torture porn horror films where, someone's locked in the basement and they're hearing voices from God and they're going to, I have to do this to you because I'm being told to do this and I have to. It's not, I don't want to. I have to kill you now, son. And that's always how I've sort of viewed it in that modern lens.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's very easy place for a modern audience to go. How do you take this if you believe in an all-loving and all-powerful God?
Mm.
I mean, yeah, it'll come all right in the end. But why is God putting Isaac, who is entirely blameless, and Abraham through this?
He's testing them, which is what God does all the time. I mean, they would see the current virus as a test.
Yeah.
Stephen, I see ruminations. Any thoughts?
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I have been ruminating.
Go on.
Well, a couple of, I mean, Christians will, Christian parents will be looking at small children dying, won't they, all the time? And, tonally, I think it's a fine line to walk if you were doing it now. It turns up later in the King John plays, I think, doesn't it, with Arthur, who's supposed to be murdered by Hubert or whoever it is. And this kind of, it could be a little lispy, a sort of and will you cut my head off, Daddy? So it's a bit of a hard one to do, I think, now. And I wonder how easy come back to your first point, Rob. I wonder how easy it was to do then, because they have to draw it out to kind of emphasize it and give it due weight. But the more they do that, the further away it gets from something recognizable, I think, in a sense. The kind of biblical acceptance of everything kind of takes over, but he's so explicit about what's going to happen. He thinks.
Yeah, there is a psychodrama going on here as well as the biblical drama.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's a psychodrama.
And it's quite hard.
Sorry, go, Aliki.
It's quite hard to play. There you are, a grown man I've never actually met in real life, doing the Isaac Henry, and I'm like, I'm gonna kill my child. It's not. It's a hard role to play, even as is. The psychodrama is definitely there.
I do think it's one of the most psychologically drawn of all of the Abraham plays. All have that sort of internal quality that some other plays don't have. Though there's more of it than you'd think at first sight. There's an additional drama to follow in this final third of the play, unless anyone has additional thoughts. No, let's go into the final moment. So the angel has turned up and has deflected the sword, or is holding the sword, so that he cannot smite.
Abraham, leave off and do not smite. Withdraw thy hand. It is God's will. Take up Isaac, thy son so white. For God will not that thou him spill. He seeth that thou art ready for him, for to fulfill his commandment in well and woe. And therefore now he sent me thee till, and bade that Isaac should not be sacrificed so. And as for thy sacrifice, turn thee and take that widow there, and sacrifice him on that altar. And look that Isaac have no dear, I charge thee in all wise.
Ah, sovereign Lord, thy will be fulfilled in heaven and earth, in water and clay. Lord, I thank thee that Isaac is not killed. Now, Lord, I know well thou didst but say what I would say thereto, either yea or nay. Thou knowest my heart now. And so thou didst afore. Hadst not sent thine angel, Isaac had died this day. But good Lord, save thy pleasance, this proof was right sore. And yet I thank thee high that I have my son's life. Go, son, do on thy clothes blithe, and let not thy mother wait of this strive, I pray thee, son, heartily.
Abraham, look up and hearken to me. Sith thou wouldst have done that I charged thee, and sparedest not to slay Isaac, thy son so free, the chief treasure that thou hast, by mine own self I swear certain, thy goodwill I shall quite again. That shall be worship unto you twain while the world shall last. For thou sparedest not thy son for me. Go, and novem the gravel in the sea, either motes in the sun, and it will be by any estimation. And as like as gravel in the sea doth lie, as like thy seed shall multiply, and one shall be born of thy progeny that to all shall cause salvation.
Ah, Lord, he thanked ever be thy might, by time, by tide, by day and night. Now, Isaac's son, let us hence dight to our horses and our men. Go, they have been here fast by. Here, sirs, bring hence our horses and high, and let us leap up here lightly. Fast that we were hen, leap up, son, and fast have ado.
All ready, father, I am here, lo. Ye shall not be let whenever ye go. My mother I would fain see, and yet that hour I saw this day, I wend I should have gone my way.
Yea, blessed be that Lord that so can assay his servant in every degree.
And they clippity-clop, back home they go.
Ah, welcome, sovereign, without an doubt. How have ye fared whilst ye have been out? And Isaac's son, in all this rout, heartily welcome home be ye.
Gramercy, wife, fair must you befall. Come thence, wife, out of your hall, and let us go walk, and I will tell you all how God have sped this day with me. Wife, I went for to sacrifice, but how trow you? Tell me verily.
Forsooth, sovereign, I wot not I, peradventure some quick best.
Quick? Yea, forsooth, quick it was. As well I may tell you all the case as another that was in the same place, for I wot well it will be wist. Almighty God that sitteth on high bade me take Isaac, thy son, thereby and smite off his head, and brand him verily upon yonder hill. And when I had made fire and smoke, and drove my knife to give him a stroke, an angel came, and my will broke, and said, Our Lord allowed my will.
Alas, all then had gone to wrack. Would ye have slain my son Isaac? Nay, then all my joy had me forsake. Alas, where was your mind?
My mind upon the good Lord on high. Nay, and he bid me trust it verily, though it had been thyself and I, it should not have been left behind. God gave him betwixt us twain, and now he asked him of us again. Should I say nay? Nay, in certain, not for all the world wide. Now he knoweth my heart verily. Isaac hath his blessing, and also I, and hath blessed also all our progeny forever to abide.
Now blessed be that Lord sovereign, that so liketh to say to you twain, that whatsoever he lust, I say not there again, but his will be fulfilled.
Isaac hath no harm, but in manner I was sorry, and yet I have won his love truly, as evermore, good Lord gramercy, that my child is not killed. Now ye that have seen this array, I warn you all, both night and day, what God commandeth, say not nay, for ye shall not lose thereby.
And the story ends. Yeah, Abraham, they ride off home, and he says to his son, don't tell her anything.
And then he goes and tells her.
And then, yeah, well, it's the thing is, it's like he's got there, and Isaac says nothing when they get home, and it's almost like Abraham's just going, and then goes, okay, let's go for a walk. I'll break the news to you first. And then what's the first thing he does? He goes, I went to sacrifice, but tell me, how are you? So there's this sort of back and forth between, should tell you about the sacrifice thing. Maybe not. There's something really nice about that. And then Sarah's response, alas, where was your mind?
What are you thinking?
And I think that's a really important element about this play, and you get it in other plays in slightly different ways, is that, yes, the play is grappling with what do you do if God tells you to do this? And this is the response that you would get is, what were you thinking? What's on your mind? And, and we get towards the lesson at the end that Abraham really trowels on thick. It's a warning, follow God's commandments, no matter how hard they are, because this is the hardest example, and it all come out fine in the end.
And there's a hint of appeasement in it, isn't there? Every time he says, Isaac says, thank you, God, for not making me kill Isaac after all. And here I am home with Isaac. Thanks again, God.
Yes, evermore, God, good Lord, gramercy.
Yeah.
Following immediately on from, Isaac hath no harm, and yet I have won his love truly. Whose love? Is Isaac's love? I'm not so sure.
And then Sarah seems to be perfectly reconciled to it, which is a bit weird.
He's told her the upside, hasn't he? Because there is an upside to this.
And she's not going to live...
Which is that their descendants are all going to be...
Sure. But that's great in theory, but are those grandchildren she's going to, live to hold in her arms?
No.
He's not really talking to her, is he, in a sense?
No.
It's kind of like the long view is from the audience perspective, the long run, So there's a constant sort of shuttling, isn't there, between the kind of eternal biblical present and the present of the performance.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The characters in the Old Testament plays are sort of supernaturally aware of what all this will mean thousands of years later.
And there's also that, I don't know if there's they're looking at you. I think someone just said, looking over their shoulders, going up to God. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Maybe Sarah's just going, yes, thank you, God, that I am so grateful. Kind of action.
That this will never happen again.
Yeah.
The audience would have all known what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe some small children didn't.
It's that
Give
thing
them total nightmares.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes. Go to bed now, or I'm so gonna. There won't be an angel to save you.
The church has institutionalized child abuse.
Well,
let's not go down that road.
I'll go off on a quick tangent and say that in modern Greece, when children are unruly, people will say, "Alas, poor Herod, good old Herod, what a fellow." And I wonder if in medieval England they went, Abraham had the right idea.
Yeah.
I have a couple of nephews who learnt the story of Richard III early on.
So wise, they say, shall not live long.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, it's that thing of, it's part of that ever turning cycle of, reiteration. I mean, it's not so much education, but reiteration and making constant part of your life. These stories, these elements, these parallels. And, there is an important element to their questioning of the narrative, because, elements of the narrative plainly are disturbing. The play addresses that and then tries to circle in on it. Alan and I have done some of the other of these plays for the podcast.
At least two, if not three.
Two of which are also sort of versions of the same play. So it's sort of two and one. Two become one in a sort of Spice Girls kind of way. And it's interesting, in the Brome play of Abraham, there's a doctor at the end who turns up and sort of tries to explain to everyone. Now, you might be thinking that this play is not quite suitable. And there they explicitly ask the question of, what would you do if God came down? And it's a very much, have you learned from this lesson that, sometimes God's commandments are hard? And does it in a much less dramatic, it plays out the drama, the psychodrama considerably more, actually, even more than this one does. Isaac is almost playing Abraham in the some of the others, where he's sort of going, "Yes, Father, you must kill me now. Yes, do not worry, Father. I'm absolutely deaf." It's and precisely how that's played between the centuries is quite interesting.
In this one, there's the animal that they then find in the thicket to sacrifice kind of got missed out.
Yes, we don't have a clear indication that they then sacrifice, where we do in other plays. We do have the
And
actual
what's a wedder?
Yeah.
It's
Weather.
the sheep.
Weather.
Weather.
W-T-H-E-R.
Weather. Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's our playful sheep. I think it's originally supposed to be a ram or something, but I think they do the sort of Lamb of God thing with a lot of these plays, so it becomes definitely a sheep. Alan.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I think it's the Broom play, isn't it, where when we did that one, I think I was doing Isaac, and an awful lot of his speeches could be paraphrased as, for goodness sake, Father, get on with it.
Yes.
Stop hanging about.
Stop crying, Father, and chop my head off.
I mean, it's seriously weird, but...
Well, it depends if it's reverse psychology. That's how I read it. It's like make his father feel as bad as possible. Just turn that crank even further.
Worth looking for on the podcast.
It is available on the... yes, there will be links in the show notes to all the other versions that we've done so far. Quite a few. Okay. So God promises, their descendants will be as grains of sand, gravel on the sea.
That's number, not that V.
Right.
V is a U.
Yeah. It took me until the moment he said it, I went, oh yeah. So I should have done that in the edit. There's one or two little minor other edits.
Yes, there's a last for lest and stuff. Yeah.
And beast. There's a missing beast at one point. You said best because it was written that way, but it should be quick beast. The quick beast.
Yeah.
Yes, and of course, quick means throughout. There's a lot of quicks here, and of course, they all mean alive.
Yeah.
And fast.
Yeah. The quick and the dead.
Quick and the dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also noticed that the anonymous poet has made sure that lots of people and beings and angels and whatnot are free so that he can rhyme it with thee.
Yeah, it was a smaller vocabulary then. Well, the great thing about medieval drama is that you just change the vowel sound at the end of any words if you want. If you just didn't have a rhyming word, you put the word you wanted to put in and then just change the ending. It's perfectly standard system.
Free very often means guiltless.
Ah, thank you.
There's the guilty and the free.
Unburdened, I guess, somehow.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm trying to think of examples, but I can't unless they're forbidden. But there are plenty of.
We believe.
We have many fears as well, and fears is another one of those words which sort of can do interesting backflips in terms of meaning as well, and the various meanings which can mean the modern fear, but it also can mean your loved one or your closest, someone close to you. which makes sense of that word sometimes is not very helpful.
Mm.
Well, I read it as frère, in other words, brother.
Yeah, it's all on that sort of line of meaning. It's dependent on context in a way that's quite frustrating.
And you've also got a situation. This, I think you said, was Northampton. You are Southeast Midlands.
Hmm.
So again, you could have got dialect and effects in there in terms of pronunciation. It's like some of the stuff we've done from the West Midlands, where yow and trow are a rhyme.
Mm. Well, I think, to be fair, yow is quite consistent through most of the various accents available. It seems to be.
It's still prevalent in the West Midlands.
Yeah. Okay. Final thoughts then on this play and also the previous play, or a combination of the two?
I just feel that there's a great deal of staging that if you were going to do it modern times, you would need to recreate. And there's just, you can feel the places where it isn't in both plays.
Hmm. I mean, going back to the horse element, that sense of journeying in the Abraham play, it's very like what we had with the Conversion of St. Paul play, which features a journey on a horse, which is prepared in the same way, goes on in the same way, and there's a genuine journey occurring there. So the way this is performed is really open for question. How it was performed then, I'm not quite getting a play scaffold sense, or even a cart performance in quite the same way. It feels more open and more promenade. It doesn't mean that it wasn't. It just seems to feel more extended in that way. It's fun. Helen, any final thoughts?
Fun wouldn't have been the word I would have sought. It's very interesting. Except as an occasional spectator, I've got no knowledge of these plays, and they're interesting. There's a lot more character in them than I had thought.
I think the Abraham plays are always good for that. Actually, is there's a really nice depth of field going on here. Not sure I felt the same about Noah, to be honest, but character perhaps. But Alan, sorry, yeah.
didn't have enough space really to find themselves, did they?
No, that's true. It was very Précy-like, wasn't it? Well, there are plays that refer to them very much as a Précy. I mean, literally, the word Précy is that's how they're advertised. Actually, I think there's some references to Chester where they explicitly talk about the plays being sort of semi-Précy kind of things. So there is that element to it. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think as with a number of the other mystery plays that we've played with over the years, you've got enough text there to form a scaffolding around which you can build probably as much spectacle as you are able to afford at the time, without overstressing what were probably amateur actors in terms of having to learn and perform lines. And there would have been a lot of probably almost ritualized actions around it.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is clearly one for your better class of actor, for Abraham and Isaac themselves, and for a lot of the parts actually in this. We've only got, in terms of smaller roles, they're literally non-speaking, hold the horse characters. Even God and the angel, they're not big parts, but they do get to say some stuff, and it's got some edge to it. Stephen, any final thoughts?
Well, the sort of thing everyone else has been saying, really. I think that, it's really interesting to see people grappling with, is Abraham and Isaac a 20-minute play, or is it 15, or is it 30? and what kind of shape is it? You know, so it sort of reminds me a bit of folk plays, you know, where you have the skeleton,
Yeah.
and then, you know, how long is St. George going to take to do this? That kind of thing, you know. So I do find that really interesting, the idea, the way in which these people are grappling with adapting, you know, not a huge amount of actual text, and not necessarily beholden to, you know, apocryphal stories and sort of the stuff that is around the Bible that the medieval era, you know, is much more familiar with than we are. So I think that's the thing I really take from it. I think it's fascinating in terms of the evolution, you know, of how long should this bit be, and what should come before it, and how should this interruption happen, and, you know, and I think that's one of the nice things about there being so many different versions of it, I think, which you get with histories too. You get alternate takes.
And you know, it very much felt that more for the Noah play, which definitely feels like more a scaffold than a script. Whereas the Abraham had, you know, there's still lots and lots of questions about it and how you shape the performance, but they're interesting beasts. Helen.
Yes, something suddenly occurred to me, because these are 100, 200 years before the time I'm used to. I assume a large proportion of the actors would have been illiterate.
Yes, potentially.
And so would have learnt it by repetition from someone who had written it, or was literate, or had played it the year before.
Well, that's one of the interesting things about, you know, if these are plays that are in a big civic cycle where you are performing effectively the same text every year, you know, we have got references to how, you know, in the run up to those kind of productions, you would turn up to essentially a line gabble where you are prove to the authorities that you know your lines. You don't rehearse. You just prove you know your lines. And of course, if you're doing that every year, you performed it the year before, then, you know, it's this thing of at what point did anyone learn their lines? And did anyone, you know, it's almost like, when did these plays get written? Did they ever get written? Or were they only ever rewritten? Did anyone ever learn the lines? You know, there is no initial point to work from. If these plays are not performed as part of an ongoing cycle and they're performed locally or individually, as the plays frequently are, then it's a very different kettle of fish about how they come into being and what structures come into it. There's a really interesting, I think, in Cornwall, where there's a tradition where nobody learns their lines. There's a prompter at the back who just reads the script all the way through, and the actors just have to repeat the lines, and they just keep doing it. And that continues, I think, even into the performances. So it's almost like you have a prompter that's just constantly, you know, you have an earpiece in, you know, there might be the modern equivalent, feeding you your lines. So there's all sorts of questions about that. Did anyone ever learn their lines, or did they just somehow know them?
What obvious, we're just speculating out of nowhere, okay? But what obvious thing occurs to me is that the parts might have been handed down through family lines. You played Abraham for 20 years, and then your son played Abraham.
Well, within the guild structure, that would make sense.
Yeah.
That, you know, you got the Isaac figure, for example, who would probably be one of the younger apprentices or journeymen.
Yeah.
When he gets made up to master, then maybe his apprentice is the one who has to take on that role.
Sure. Or maybe every time the newest apprentice is Isaac.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, of course, we get into blurry areas about what we mean by amateur and what we mean by professional as well, especially with guilds, where, you know, they are hiring people at times to play big parts who, you know, and there are people, and they probably still have another job, but they might also still earn a reasonable whack out of doing performances. So there are blurry lines, and performing and doing mini tours with your your local play is not impossible or unknown. There are places where they hire out their costumes to other players and things, you know, and going on for hundreds of years. So there's a whole untidy blob of stuff, that, you know, feeds into the early modern when we start getting to what we might call professional playing companies, but even then they might still have other jobs as well, because they might be part of a household. You know, it's not a neat suddenly there are professional actors and they are properly professional as we would call professionals. It's very,
the whole Waits went on tour.
Yeah, the musician side as well. We haven't even got to the musician. Is there any music in this?
Right, yeah. Well, I was thinking of musicians because you can think of modern equivalents of that now. Pub bands, who are people who have real jobs, but who also make a living as kind of local entertainers. And the costume is a really interesting question too, because you want something big, right? Something big and glamorous. So maybe it was a question of who fits into God's outfit.
I'm really interested in Alan's point there, because Abraham and Isaac is a sort of paradigmatic of master apprentice, isn't it? You know, this is kind of, maybe that's why we've got so many. Maybe the guild kind of puts everybody through it, you know. Everyone has to sit down and watch the natural order of things.
Yes, I'm playing Abraham now, but once upon a time, my lad, I was an Isaac too.
Back in good old days, lad.
And of course, when God lost his teeth, he'd have to pass the part on to someone else.
Right.
Yes, and yeah, talking about costumes, you know, there's you know, we know that money could, you know, these could be extremely expensive things, especially gold gold and silver being used. And it's interesting also different practices. So big cycles are effectively a loss leader. You lose money making a big cycle, but the aim is, of course, you're getting tourists coming into your city, so the city hopefully recoups. Everyone sort of rises on that. Whereas local, smaller, so we're in Suffolk, Alan and I, you know, the point of putting on individual parish plays would be to raise money. You put on a play like one of these plays, and the Broom play of Abraham and Isaac is almost identical to the Chester play. So it's like it's splintered off and it's become a play that you might do locally as a one-off. And that's done. And the aim of that and the entire purpose of that, you know, you connect it with the church ale and you raise up some cash. And you make a profit. I mean, that's always the point.
Although at the time we're talking about, in fact, this part of East Anglia was extremely wealthy.
Extremely wealthy. That's why we have so much drama.
You know, they were incredibly wealthy communities. I think Lavenham at about this time was second or third wealthiest community in the country outside London.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's in what is it, effectively a town of 5,000 people?
What's that?
And hasn't changed much in God knows how many centuries.
Yeah. So yeah, there's all sorts of different modes that could be played with these texts, and you know, we don't know how many lives they lived through, whether cycles stole other people's individual plays, or you know, how were they distributed. These plays have been existing in some form for centuries. You know, we've got versions of what we'd call a mystery play going back to, you know, the 12th, 11th century, you know, in Norman French and other examples, 13th century examples as well, that are very similar to these, just linguistically different, and lots of fragments. So it's a really, really long tradition of this kind of play, of which, you know, we only have these quite late examples and some fragments of some earlier stuff.
Explicitly, what we've got, I think, is we've probably got all of these things are effectively palimpsests. They've been modified over time. Either the scripts got rewritten, or if the stuff has been passed down through an oral tradition, you've got Chinese whispers going on.
Yeah, I suspect, you know, that at some point there's an active rewriting process. I find it's quite difficult to just tidy, you know, an earlier verse form and an earlier language style. I think it would be quite difficult without basically going back to first principles. If we compare this with the Harrowing of Hell, which we haven't put out on the podcast yet, but it's coming soon, he said, promising, which is 13th century and looks very much like a play. You know, in terms of language style, it's very different. Structurally, it's very similar. You know, the way the narrative is laid out and performances happen. So, yeah, but we don't know. We just don't know. We have lots of guesses. Any final thoughts before I close the session? No. Okay. I'm going to thank all the readers today for reading through these two plays, and goodbye.
Bye.